Quran recited for you tonight. The talent is known in capturing the linguistic beauty of the Quran. With his recitation, it's well known to many of you. Please welcome Brother Mahdi Heshmati with a loud salawat, please.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ألف لام ميم. أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون. ولقد فتنا الذين من قبلهم فليعلمن الله الذين صدقوا وليعلمن الكاذبين. أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون. ولقد فتنا ولقد فتنا الذين من قبلهم فليعلمن الله الذين صدقوا وليعلمن الكاذبين. أم حسب الذين يعملون السيئات أن يسبقونا أم حسب الذين يعملون السيئات أن يسبقونا ساء ما يحكمون. من كان يرجو لقاء الله من كان يرجو لقاء الله فإن أجل الله لآت. وهو السميع العليم. ومن جاهد فإنما يجاهد لنفسه إن الله لغني عن العالمين. والذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات لنكفرن عنهم سيئاتهم ولنجزينهم أحسن الذي كانوا يعملون. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لإيلاف قريش إيلافهم رحلة الشتاء والصيف فليعبدوا رب هذا البيت الذي أطعمهم من جوع وآمنهم من خوف صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أحسنت الله ما شاء الله.
Thank you very much, Brother Mahdi, for a very beautiful recitation. We're now going to move on to the main event, Sayyida Zainab, from a psychotherapeutic lens. We intend the discussion to be interactive, so feel free to ask questions throughout the talk. Just raise your hand so our speaker can see you. But obviously, if you want to ask questions and you just want to remain silent, that's fine. We'll have a short Q&A afterwards for any unanswered questions as well. There are also refreshments outside. You probably saw them as you were coming in, so feel free to get some of those refreshments as well, also tea. So let's move on to the main event. So Brother Mustafa Al-Sa'di is a highly experienced mental health professional with a background in both psychology and criminology. He's got 5 years of experience as a psychotherapist within the NHS. He's currently continuing his training as a high-intensity cognitive behavioral therapist. Brother Mustafa holds a postgraduate diploma in low-intensity CBT, and he's worked as a psychological well-being practitioner and assistant psychologist as well. Please give a loud salawat for Brother Mustafa. And we'll begin the speaking.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صل على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم إني أسألك إيمانا تباشر به قلبي. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Today we're meeting together to talk about or explore a magnificent character, and who am I to speak of this character? This is an insana mukamila, alima غير معلمة, فهيمة غير مفهمة, and words fail to express her station entirely, so I will not try to do that. Instead, people with more experience, greater eloquence, are able to at least give a flavor of her amazing stature, as you can see on the screen there. So, before we begin, in terms of the content of today, it's a perspective on mental health and suffering, but also in terms of what we can learn from Sayyidina Zainab alayhi salam and the traditions of ahlebait, but also looking at the dots that connect psychotherapeutic and Islamic approaches or traditions together. So the different items will connect together. It's not sequential exactly. This is simply a perspective. The perspective is mine, from what I've read, what I've researched. It is not comprehensive, and no diagnoses will be present today. I'm not diagnosing anyone in terms of historical characters, nor is it therapy, though you may find it therapeutic. Apologies for any mistakes in terms of translations, understanding, or references. I am not a scholar, not a historian, but I'm a psychotherapist, and the lens is that which I'm approaching the topic. What I intended for this discussion, you can call it, or talk, is for it to be experiential. And what I mean by experiential is I want this to be a back and forth thing. There will be moments where I ask you to do something or lift your hand if you agree with something that I've said, or you are able to relate to something or have any ideas or questions. So help me in this journey. I would be very grateful. And I know that I'm asking a lot from you in terms of bravery, but for Sayyida Zainab, I'm sure we can muster a few moments of courage. So before we begin, I want to start with an exercise that's a bit more experiential. It will help us when we delve into the topic itself and the different parts or the ingredients I'd like us to touch on. And for this practice, I'd like you to go back in time. You can close your eyes if you want, or you can just keep them open, but remember a moment in time where you felt absolute peace. Time stood still. There was no future, no past, and you were lost in the moment completely. Try and remember any details. Smells, colors. Was it a moment in nature that you lost yourself? A happy memory, anything at all that you can remember. And raise your hand once you have it. Okay. Now comes the scary part. Who would like to be brave for me to ask them some questions about their memory? It won't be in any way too much. I won't ask for too much detail, but it's something about the experience itself. So, for Sayyida Zainab, who wants to be brave? And the thing about therapists is we can sit in silence for as long as it takes. Would you like to go?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay. Do you want to close your eyes or keep them open?
I'm fine open.
Okay. Are you able to connect to the memory itself? Feel it as if you're living it right now. Okay. Can you describe what you're feeling or seeing? You don't have to give me details, but just anything you can share.
Quite serene. Just, it's not quiet. It's just, there's a lot of just background noise.
Sorry.
People talking and things like that, but just a calm kind of ambience.
And when you say calm ambience, how does that feel?
It's kind of like everyone's kind of normal. It's in a situation where everyone's having a normal discussion. The place that everyone is a little bit more spiritual than everywhere else, but it's kind of like that kind of thing that people tend to do quite naturally when they go to like a mosque or a shrine. But just that situation it just felt at peace, because I was over there at that time as well.
Okay. Did you feel like time stopped?
Yeah.
And in that moment, what were you thinking about? Where was your attention?
I was just watching people.
Okay.
Yeah. It was just looking at people, people discussing with each other, talking to each other, maybe a kid running around.
What about yourself? Was yourself in the picture, or was it you were lost in the moment?
No, it was just kind of like nothing, no thoughts on my mind, kind of just observing.
Okay. And you mentioned you felt peace.
Yeah.
How peaceful?
No worries, kind of peace.
Perfect.
Yeah, nothing to worry about.
Imagine that feeling got magnified and it never left you. And then bad news comes your way. What happens?
That kind of zone that you're in just disappears.
Okay. Imagine it never does. And it's stronger than ever. You're at peace.
Then it's not that big of an issue.
What happens to the emotions that come and visit?
Pass by.
Has that ever happened in the past for you?
No.
Okay. Good. Now you're being honest. Okay. Was there anything about that moment that you found interesting?
I think the interesting bit was after it, I felt privileged to experience it.
Mm.
That's the more interesting bit that I had with it.
But it was fleeting.
Yeah.
It came and went.
Yeah.
Okay. How many people found this relatable? Raise your hands. I might have to see higher hands if I can't see. Okay, quite a few people. So we're going to explore a bit about that and what that looks like. And where we begin is, right here. So there are three ingredients that I've felt were really important when it comes to looking at the personality of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam. During this talk, you might feel like I'm going into different places, but I'm looking at the ingredients, and then we'll link it back to Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam as well. So the three areas, they're interconnected, they're happening at the same time, and there's no kind of sequential order to it, but we will go clockwise just to make it a bit simple. So you have the dissolution of self. You've got emotions, being accepting of emotions and presence. And you've also got values, experiential living and letting go. But all of these different items link to the concept of Tawheed. And I've kind of put the different statements of Tawheed. You've got Dhati, Sifati, Af'ali, but I won't define them, it will happen organically as we go through it. So we'll start with the dissolution of self, which is fana al-nafs. And it goes all the way here. So think of this black dot as the beginning of life. You have a child born. And then for the parents here, if you've ever had, well, you are parents, you have children. At the age of 3, for instance, a child might want to give a gift to their parent or someone they care about, but they don't understand that they have different needs to them. Because their understanding of the other person is they are like me, they're part of me, they're fused with the world. Anyone relates to that in terms of kids? They try and give you a birthday gift, but they end up giving you their very favorite toy instead of actually what you care about and what you want. Hands. Okay, it's only you. Do you have kids? Okay, thank you. Nephews, thank you. So it starts like this. You've got a 3-year-old, they're fused with the world. They don't understand that I have a self, I'm different, and this person is different to me. Everything is fused, everyone's kind of in this together. They grow older, by age 6, 7, depends, 8, then they're able to recognize this person has different needs to me, they need a different gift. And this process continues through time as they get older until they reach this point right there where they're an adult, or they've reached maturation and they're able to tell their own thoughts, their own emotions. I am me, and everyone else is everyone else, and the world is the world itself. This is where things get interesting. So, this looks complicated initially, but think of it as a continuum of different stories that we tell ourselves. As we grow older, as we go through childhood, we have stories that we go through, experiences that happen to us, and a way of making sense of it. And when that happens, you start developing stories about yourself. So I put two examples here. You've got one on the left that says, I'm a failure, the world is harsh, people are cruel, and then on the right is a very kind of extreme example of I'm perfect, the world is perfect, people are perfect. Now, this is a very reductionistic example because you can have many different ones and you can think of this as like a multiply pointed arrow head. So let's say someone has these beliefs. They think they're a failure, they think the world is harsh, people are cruel. My question to you is, how does one have this story happen to them? That they actually think this. They might not verbalize it, they may feel it, but they don't live life without this in the background.
Bad experiences.
Okay, we have bad experiences. Any ideas?
Maybe childhood.
For sickness.
Okay, so we got childhood traumas, you got sickness. Anything else?
Generally, brother.
I believe even if the child inside his mother's womb, things will affect him.
There is an
Yeah,
argument for
her
that too, yes.
psychological statement, he hears everything, the mother's situation affects on him. I think it starts from there as well.
Yeah, it could be even before birth as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
So we're saying some experiences could happen that someone develops this story about themselves. They're young. Would you say it's their fault? Okay, I see a lot of no's. So a kid grows up, there's a story that happens, they believe this about themselves as they grow older. How easy is it to shake this off? Does anyone think this is easy to remove? Okay, so this is hard to shake off, to get rid of. And we've agreed that it's not the child's fault. Sometimes it's not trauma. Sometimes you have a perfectly normal life, whatever normal means. And an example might be a kid thinks or heard his parents tell him, as long as you do your best, as long as you try your best, you'll be fine. But because the kid is 7, 8, 9, to his mind, I need to do my best in everything, because if I don't, something bad is going to happen, and then that means I'm a failure. The reason I say this is not to scare any parents and think I need to make sure I explain the exact grammatical way of my way of raising my kids, but actually that this is quite normal, natural. This is no one's fault. And I have the view that I think God wanted it to be this way, and that this is part of the journey. So, we have this belief system. Question is, what kind of rules or standards would this person live by? So let's say I think I'm a failure, I think the world is harsh, people are cruel. How do I navigate the world so I make these less painful for me? How do I do my studies? How do I conduct myself at work? How do I navigate relationships?
Doomed for failure.
Okay, so if you think you're doomed for failure, what do you do?
Make it fail quicker.
Make it fail quicker, okay. Speed up the pain so you don't have to wait for it. That applies in relationships. Sometimes people will push other people away so they hurt themselves and they don't get hurt. You had your hand up.
Detached from space. Keep
So-
themselves detached from around.
Okay, keeping themselves detached. Making sure everything feels far, blocking everything out. Anything else people can think of?
Never trust anyone.
Never trust anyone. Okay. It may even show up in terms of the standards that you have with work. If I believe I'm a failure, then I'm going to work extra hard because it takes me longer to do things and I have a higher chance of failing. I'm going to make sure I do my absolute best. Okay. If I live by that rule, let's say I have a rule that says I need to do my absolute best when it comes to everything I do. What do I gain?
Satisfaction.
Okay.
Content, yeah.
So I got satisfaction. What else do I gain?
External validation.
Okay. And once I get that external validation, what happens next?
Peace?
Does it last?
Of course not.
Okay. What do I need more of?
Self-value.
Pardon?
Self-value.
Okay. So, well, it takes longer to get to that point. So I'm just going to keep doing external validation. I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep doing 100%. What do I lose?
Peace of mind.
The
Peace of
sense-
mind.
What do I lose? You say?
What do I lose by doing 100% all the time?
Myself.
Sense of life.
Sense of life. I'm not
I'm
enjoying
rushing
it.
all the time.
I'm rushing all the time, trying to prove that I can succeed, that I'm not a failure in everything I do. So I'm losing peace, energy. What else am I losing? Time?
Self.
And losing yourself. True, because it's all about what you do. So how do they make sense of things? Things that happen, bad things that happen to them. Suppose you're working and then one of those lights at the ceiling just fall right next to you. And you have the belief that you're a failure. What's the first thought that comes to your mind?
I think it's your fault.
It's your fault. Okay. What else?
Bound to happen.
It's bound to happen. Why?
Because you're the failure.
I'm a failure. Yeah.
Unlucky.
Has nothing to do with me. It's just a light that fell. We also have a saying, don't we, in certain cultures, everything you touch is cursed. It breaks the moment it happens.
Forgo.
There you go, that's one of them. So something random happens next to this person, has nothing to do with them. It breaks, and then they think it's my fault. I attract disasters, I cause issues. It's me.
But that makes them feel better.
Okay, how?
Because they don't have to think a lot.
They don't,
Give up.
they give up because of it. Also, there's a theory that actually it's a familiar story. If you grew up thinking that you're a failure and everything's your fault, when bad things happen,
It's
your
myself.
mind goes to that shortcut because it's the easiest explanation and it's familiar. So I'm drawing upon multiple theories here, and I'll just mention some names for the sake of references. This is from cognitive behavioral therapy. This is the Beckian model of like core beliefs and such. With the line when we were going up, that was reperceiving, and I'll talk more about it. But the most important question is, how do they make sense of their emotions? I'm a failure. If I feel sadness, what do I think about it? I deserve it. Anything else?
It's a natural state, and it's nothing new.
This is nothing new. This is all I know.
It's just-
Okay. What about this person in a religious context? How do they navigate their faith? How they pray, how much they pray, when they listen to a lecture? What happens to them?
They do the same.
They do what?
The same. I mean, they will have the same attitude.
Okay.
They have a target.
They have a target.
So
I have to do 100%, so I'm going to do 100% with my prayers and everything else. If the light falls, it's my fault. So when the speaker talks about people not doing something, I'm going to think it's my fault. He's talking to me directly. What else happens? And this may be relatable for people. Distance. Yeah, because why would I come here if speaker's going to talk about all the things that make me feel guilty that I already built myself up with? Now, this is one version of someone. And I'm going to ask a question. Don't raise your hands, but just within yourself, think about it. How many of you feel like you're not good enough?
No, and then
Okay. And think about where it comes from. The stories you had growing up, the things that you went through, that you experienced, and then how does that play out with your faith, your prayers, the things that you do? Does it feel like it's easy to get close to God, or does it feel like it's a monumental effort? Raise your hands if you think it's really hard to be close to God. Raise your hands if it's really easy. Okay, a few hands think it's really easy to get close to God. Some hands never went up, so somewhere in between, which is interesting. So they're not sure. So we have this story, we have this particular kind of thing happening, and we didn't delve too much into mental health or anything like that. This is just a story of someone grew up, this is what they think of themselves, this is how they're navigating the world, this is how they navigate their faith, and when problems happen, they don't know how to handle them. Or they have a script that always runs. I'm not good enough, I'm a failure, I'm worthless, bad things happen to me. So a random thing falls, a pebble hits their windscreen, they have a car accident, it's all me. I attract disasters. I'm the one causing these problems. Why doesn't God love me? Or is it because I have a lot of sins that I have these things happen to me? How many people think that their bala or their suffering is because God loves them? Raise your hand if you actually think that for yourself.
sometimes it's true.
How many of you think that your bala is because you're getting punished? Okay. So we got a mix of people. So that's one version. And we've got the other version, which is I'm perfect, the world is perfect, people are perfect, which is very unlikely, but people usually fall somewhere in the middle. And they've got some stories, they've got a script, and the way they navigate the world is whatever happens, they don't really see it, they color it.
So I mean, kind of some marking or
It's like you have your script and it superimposes on whatever you're seeing.
behind.
So you're not seeing things as they are. The thing that we hear, Allahumma arini al-ashya'a kama hiya, we're not really seeing them because we have a script and a story that runs, puts itself on whatever you're seeing. Any questions so far?
So there's a verse that comes to mind. I don't know if I'm saying it right. وَمَا أَصَابَكُم مِّن مُّصِيبَةٍ فَبِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيكُم. So
Yes.
it can be relevant. That it can be because of your own hands. Literally, it's like self-accountability. So I think sometimes, it's an empowering thing that if you are the cause of your own trouble, you can be the cause of your solution as well.
Mm.
Whereas if you think that it's not, sometimes when you think it's not your fault and there's no self-accountability, then you don't have the control to do anything to change your life.
True. But notice the ability that you have to be able to make that nuance. If you had the belief that you're a failure, would you be able to make that difference?
No, that's too extreme.
Too extreme. but you have flexibility there. You're able to say, actually, by knowing that I'm the cause of this, it means that I can fix it. That God has given me some agency, which is a beautiful way to look at it. I didn't see it that way. Thank you. Anyone else would like to?
Repeat the question.
The question?
Yeah. Can you repeat the question to me? Because we didn't hear it.
Oh, from the sister. Yeah. Could you repeat the question? Sorry. It was about an ayah you mentioned.
Yeah, so the ayah is like whatever.
Can you use the mic?
Yeah, sorry. So the ayah is وَمَا أَصَابَكُم مِّن مُّصِيبَةٍ فَبِمَا كَسَبَتْ أَيْدِيكُم. So whatever disaster, well, translating it is hard.
Trial test.
Yeah, it falls on your way, and then it's but from your own hands, something like that. So yeah, whatever disaster comes on, you know, it comes from your own hands. So that's bringing the ayah out of context, but I think it's a context that can be applicable to certain situations, not every single situation that happens to you, but it brings up the idea of self-accountability. So having that feeling sometimes that this happened because of maybe something bad that happened. Sometimes people look for trouble and something happens to them. But then you can turn things around by then doing good to reverse that. So that's empowering in a way. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, there's a pass the mic back.
Just a quick thing. You chose the word punishment. I don't agree with you. Punishment to me, it's only on some specific people who are so bad, like let's say enemies of Deen, enemies of ahlebait. To us as mu'mineen, believers, followers to ahlebait, we have sins. Allah, when He put bala on us, it's like an alert to us to notice something. What brought it to us, learn a lesson. Besides taking away our sins, mahwi dhunub. It's just a note I wanted to say.
Yeah,
the word punishment is very frustrating.
I used it intentionally because I used
sorry for that.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
But I agree with you definitely. What do you mean about punishment? Of course, we all make sins and sometimes we have consequences. But from a loving God,
Yes.
Punishment, it seems like he wants to hurt us or right away give us that's all.
Thank you. I agree with you, but the reason I use the word is because I'm using it from the perspective of this person here. So they don't see it like nuanced. They think they're getting punished. But I agree with you in the sense that there's a gentleness to it, and there are some narrations that I'll mention getting closer to it. Salawat.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
So you have these different beliefs about ourselves, and in therapy, we try and make them a bit more flexible. So if you think that you're a failure, we try and move that a little bit. We start first with what you're doing day to day. What rules do you play by? I have to do 100% of the time, all my effort into things. And then that can generate some negative thoughts. I'm not good enough. I'm not doing things properly. Bad things will happen. Why do I keep making mistakes? And all these different things. These are things that we touch on and work with. And by doing that, we're moving this person a little bit to the middle. But you'll notice that I have an arrow pointing up. And the idea is that you're moving away from the idea that you are those beliefs. I'll need another brave person. If I were to ask you, who are you? How would you define yourself? Okay. As you go throughout your day, it is a difficult question to ask. Are you your thoughts? Raise your hands if you agree. Some people are raising them.
Partially.
Partially, okay. Are you your emotions? Oh, we have people saying yes, partially. Okay. Are you anything else? Are you your sensations? Are you your body? Are you things that you feel, touch? What are you?
All of them. All in one.
All in one? Okay. So this is what we call self as content. And this comes from Third Wave CBT Act, Hayes et al., I think 2006, or 2000, I'm mixing it with Shapiro. And the idea is that you define yourself or you know yourself as the content of who you are in terms of your thoughts, your emotions, your experiences internally and externally. And this is you. This is a box, and what you feel, what you think, what you experience is inside it. This is me. Sometimes it's really fused. Just like when we thought about the kid who gives his favorite toy to his mother because he can't see that she's different. She has different needs, interests. Same happens with us. We think we are our thoughts, we are our emotions, we are our sensations. But for some of you, you're saying partially. There's a bit of a distance.
So we say partially, maybe it's really hard. I mean, I don't know, maybe philosophy why you've got self and you've got all of this around it. The self as it is just like what's called that, it's self, ego. And then, because other things can change, my thoughts can be changed, my words can be changed. So but me is still me.
That self, how would you describe it?
It's me.
Okay. Does it have any features?
Still me.
Still you, but like, how would you, what is it? A color, what is it?
Well, even color, it's color plus the actual color. So let's say red, it's a color plus redness. It's nothing called, there's no, in philosophy, there's no redness. It's always plus color. And color itself, it's nothing. It's
okay.
I'm sorry, maybe I got
no, this is interesting because it can link, because you're saying there's nothing in a way.
Yeah. Well, I can say nothing to describe because it's not tangible.
Okay, there's an intangible one.
Yeah, I think that links to what you had on the board for now and now, transient self. So we're not eternal like God.
Yeah, so there's a transience to it, and there's another meaning as well, we'll get to, but that experience that you mentioned, how many people related to the experience that we talked about earlier where you felt like there was no self, you were lost in the moment, there was no past or present, future, just, well, there was present. And it was peace. Raise your hands if you've ever felt that. Okay, where were your thoughts? Where were your emotions? In that moment, who are you? No one. Neutral. Right. So with therapy, we try and do a bit of distance, but then we try and fix the content in some cases. So instead of thinking I'm a failure, you're thinking, actually, I'm a human being. I can make mistakes and learn and so on and so forth. And that brings you to a flexibility at the top here in the middle. And the reason why I'm moving up is to mimic the idea that you are moving away from something. There's a bit of distance from your thoughts and feelings. Why is that helpful? Is it helpful?
You can detach from bad feeling, for example.
Okay, so when you go through bad things, what happens?
It's strong.
Strong?
Yeah.
How?
Because these feelings or trauma or anything around me won't affect me because me, it's me. They are like floating around.
Floating nearby.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you're flexible about how you see yourself, how do you navigate the world?
Rationalizes your decisions.
You rationalize your decisions, you're able to navigate it well, react, adapt. There's a bit of flow, movement. But we're still stuck in self as content, technically. Like you still define yourself as this thing, and within it there are thoughts and emotions and so on and so forth. But there is another part. Kind of like an abyss or a crevice or something that you can go beyond the self. There is no self. And there's distance from emotions, from thoughts. And they swim around you, they happen around you. There is no story that puts itself on things that you experience. So when you go through a tragedy, when you go through difficulty, you see it as it is. kind of like that experience that you shared with me. Nice to meet you too. So then you begin to see things as they are. Allahumma arini ashya kama hiya. Because you have no story or script to run. And the interesting thing is we have this concept in our du'as, and specifically Dua Arafah has a beautiful pathway to it. And I mention it because Imam Hussain alayhi salam, but also you'll find it in the lines of Ilahi alimtu bi ikhtilaf al-athar wa tanaqalat al-atwar part. And I'll say the English one because international. My God, through the alternation of effects and the transitions of states, I have come to know that your intent for me is to make yourself known to me in everything, so that I do not remain ignorant of you in anything. There's a relationship that's building up with God, and there's a sense that everything is a manifestation of God. And it goes further. أنت الذي أشرقت الأنوار. You are the one who illuminated the hearts of your close ones, such that they came to know you and affirm your oneness. And you are the one who removed all others from the hearts of your beloveds, such that they love none but you. You slowly see the process of someone kind of losing themselves in this love of God and being connected there. And it moves on. ماذا وجد من فقدك وما الذي فقد من وجدك. What has he found who has lost you, and what has he lost who has found you? And the process of finding God also involves the loss of self, and we'll see that in some of the narrations as well. And he continues in the dua, and this one's near the end. You have made yourself known to everything, so nothing is ignorant of you. And you are the one who has made yourself known to me in everything. So I see you manifest in everything. Any questions so far? Any thoughts?
It's very deep. That sentence is very, very deep.
It's okay, no. Sorry.
It's okay. Listen. So how does one lose themselves? I've described something that feels a bit far, and I recognize that it's kind of weird to talk about fana al-nafs. How does it happen?
If you love someone.
If you love someone, tell me how.
So we have a term we said he is
Yadub, dissolve.
Yes.
Okay.
Terms
Okay.
in Arabic. يذوب في حب يعني even between people. Very something.
Beautiful.
But this one is with God.
Yes.
You won't see anything except him.
Yes.
And no one will be trusting to you. Just God. I didn't reach this point, but that's what I think.
It's an accurate thought. It's actually quite beautiful because it is mentioned in some of the narrations about love. هل الدين إلا الحب?
Yes.
You were saying?
Yeah. Feeling of hotness, meaning
Yes.
way of hope.
Yeah, you're saying I'm falling in love by taking this off. I'm getting it. Thank you.
Body language.
That is my dad, by the way. So love. And you see it in human relationships as well, when people fall in love and they just forget themselves and lose themselves until the honeymoon phase and everything wears off. But that sense of ishq and loss of self in something, and the easiest way is love, pretty much. How do you get that love? If we're running these scripts, are you able to feel love if you think you're a failure?
Unless you see the other things, it's like we're called aghyar, see others.
Yes.
And those get smaller and smaller, and then they dissolve.
Mm.
Then nothing else will left but God.
Yeah.
That's when you
So it's
see
a
things
gradual
like that.
process, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not always about, there's got two ways, either what's called tajammud, like a way to add things. That's not what this dua, what Quran always says. Things are already there. I mean, Allah is already there. It's everywhere. Just a matter of we don't see it because
Yes.
we're looking or we focus on something else. If we still focus on something else, we forget about other things, we'll see God clearly. So that's when it says you see it on everything.
Yes. The narration by Imam Ali alayhi salam. I haven't found anything or seen anything on where I haven't seen God before it, during it, and after it. So right now we have a bit of an argument or an idea, is that you can't, would I be right in saying you cannot see God or experience God if you have a script running? Be that I am a failure, be that I am perfect, whatever the script is, technically you're unable to see God because of it, because if that script runs, everything you see is colored by it. Would you agree?
Yes.
Anyone disagree or have any questions?
The question is why?
No questions?
No, sorry, the question is why are you doing that?
Why are we doing this? Are you asking it philosophically or are you asking
so I'm
it
looking for
for an
answer.
answer?
Yeah, for an answer.
I'll answer, yes.
Couldn't they both exist if you believe that you being a failure, everything being failure, is what has been imposed on you by Allah? As in, like, someone that would believe that this is the life that Allah has given me in this dunya. It's meant to be like this, and I'm meant to live out my life like this, which is why I'm like this.
I partially agree. There's a half of the equation there that I agree with, and the other half is the one where it's like you need to let go of that at some point. Because I feel like this is intentional where God puts that, and we all have these scripts. Because have any of you chosen your parents? Have any of you chosen your childhood? Have any of you chosen how you go through life or how you make sense of it? A lot of bad stuff happened when you were a kid, and are you ready as a kid to make sense of the world? But that stays physically with you, in your body. So when you have a car accident, when something happens, something comes up in your body and you feel it emotionally, and then the memory just comes back and you feel like that kid again in that moment, and you don't know how to navigate the situation. That is one example of like trauma kind of thing, but we'll keep PTSD to the side because that's more complicated, but some of the theory still links. So you have this pathway, you're going up, using the pathway of love, losing yourself, and you see that in dua, and then you see the manifestation of it with Imam Hussain alayhi salam when he says, هَوَّنَ عَلَيَّ مَا نَزَلَ أَنَّهُ بِعَيْنِ اللَّهِ. What has befallen me was made easier to bear because it is under the watchful eye of God. But when he says that, it's not like God is distant and he's seeing him. It's what we read so far together, is that everything is a manifestation of God. Even me. There is no me. And the interesting thing is, we go back to Sayyidah Zainab. When she was a child, she had this conversation with her dad. So, Lady Zainab basically asks her father, do you love us? And he replies, how can I not love you when you are the fruit of my heart? And then she says, oh Father, love is for Allah and compassion is for us. How do you make sense of that?
So Allah is
Sorry, no, go first.
If Allah is everything, then it makes sense that Ummayad would say that I would love, well, being fruit of my heart, how can I not love you? Given that Allah is manifested in everything.
Oh, they're passing you the microphone bit by bit, sorry.
So,
basically repeat everything you said.
If you remember.
So when Imam Ali alayhi salam says, how can I not love you? You could interpret it like the passage that we read earlier on about Allah being manifested in everything. So it could come from that kind of love. And then from Sayyidah Zainab, it's from more the human aspect, whether love is for Allah. And
us as people. You have a compassion to us as people.
Yeah. So Imam Ali alayhi salam already had that knowledge. I think it was more of a linguistic thing, but at the same time, they do have a relationship. But like, I think she was also joking with him to kind of like piece it out together as well. But this is her when she was a child. So she's here at the age of, I don't know, during her childhood, so we don't have an exact kind of date. So knowing this, there is I'm clicking the wrong button, sorry. There is a saying. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam describes water. When you go to do wudu, he says, reflect upon the purity of water, its gentleness, its cleanliness, its blessings, and its delicate blending with everything. Then interact with God's creation as water blends with things, giving each its due right without altering its nature. And this is in consideration of the Messenger, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The example of a pure believer is like that of water. Now, the interesting thing about this part is it answers several questions when it comes to the issue of emotions, but also explains this fana concept in a way. When water mixes with things, it adapts. Anything you put it in, it takes the shape. It is flexible. There's movement. There's such. And this holds the key when it comes to Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, because you see an amazing range of emotion when it comes to her. Moments of grief, of sadness, of depth of emotion. And when I say grief, I'm not lowering the stature or anything like that. It's pure emotion. And moments of sharpness of intellect, eloquence, strength. And sometimes you see that all at the same time in the speeches, in the way that she carries herself. There's that sense of flow and movement. But the nature of water stays the same. There is gentleness, there's acceptance, there's taslim. Does that make sense to people? Are there any questions?
Sorry, I missed the link with this. Is that just me like being like water, you're more accepting bad things in life, or more?
Water is transparent. Water has no color, right?
Neutral.
It's neutral. When you do fana, there is no me anymore. I'm not my thoughts, I'm not my emotions. Everything I am is from God. And for God as well. So you become like water. And anything that happens around you, experiences, emotions themselves, they're just flowing in water. And you adapt to the situation as you need to. You know, you water in a cup, water in a bottle, water in anything and everything. You put things in water, it flows. Water stays as it is in most cases. Does that make sense to people?
You mean all traumas or whatever, the effect will be temporary, not permanent?
How?
I mean, I will live that way, but what stay with me for life? Get my point? Like bereavement, I will live that bit, but I'm not going to take it for life or change my belief or change my personality. Get the point?
There is no... Here's where it gets complicated. There is no personality.
No, when I say personality, I say me, I'm the water, like you said. Yeah, that's what I mean. When I say personality, I can't say I'm water because I'm not water, but that's what I am.
Yeah.
But I mean, there is no permanent effects of everything around. But I'm gonna live that moment.
Yes.
I'm gonna live it. I'm not gonna push it away from me.
Exactly.
I'm gonna live it, but with the belief that it won't affect me. That's
it. You will live it. You will give it its right due. You will feel what you need to feel. And then when it's time for it to move on, it will move on naturally, and you will adapt to the situation.
I don't have to push it, or I don't have to keep it. To keep it with me years.
As in,
Like,
hold on to it.
Exactly, yeah.
Yes.
That's what we always used to tell our patients, especially in bereavements.
Yeah.
Live the moment.
Exactly.
Cry, don't be ashamed. Just cry, don't, especially with men.
Yeah.
Really struggle, they can't cry. So I'm gonna stay crying. So why if you cry, just cry. Release your pain and you will feel better. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a beautiful point. Any other thoughts or questions? All good? I'll keep it with you if you want. So, I think I may have made it too interactive. Are we good for time? I think.
Go on that.
Okay. I'll speed some bits up and then kind of go for it. So, knowing this, knowing that the ideal is to become like water, and there is a thing that I've hid here, which is some lines from Imam alayhi salam as well, where it's like غاية المعرفة, the highest level of knowledge is to know yourself. And the one who knows himself disintegrates, or there's that dissolution that happens. And the reason for that is, as I said with the scripts, if you get rid of the scripts and they don't apply anymore, there's a bit of distance to them. You see things as they are and you don't suffer as much, although the suffering is not your fault. And that's where the nuance is. And what he says ultimately is you define yourself with God. You don't define yourself with yourself from yourself. And you know that everything that is within you, everything that you are, is from him. Because if you think about it, where did your intelligence come from? Where did your ability to think of creative things? Who gave me the ability to think of these colors and put them together and do all these different things? Other than God. So then where am I in all of this? Nowhere. But it doesn't take away freedom of choice. And we'll look into that as well. So what does that say about then Bala? What is the purpose of suffering in that case? Knowing what we know now. Anyone want to take a guess?
So it's knowing yourself again.
Knowing yourself. And then getting rid of yourself as well. And you're moving towards God in that fana. It's a concept that's really found in Arfan as well. And you'll notice it, as I mentioned, in the Dua, Arafah as well. But there's also an interesting thing, and I wanted to mention it because it kind of gives people a bit of hope. There's two narrations from Imam Salih alayhi salam that mention kind of the importance of Bala and what Bala is for. And one of them says that God cares so much, Yunus, indeed, the believer is more honored before Allah than to pass 40 days without their sins being purified, even if through a moment of distress that they do not understand the reason for. Sometimes you'll feel emotions and you won't know why. But the framing is that it's an act of kindness, even if you have sins. But if you think you're a failure, you can't see it that way, because you're thinking everything's your fault. There's a problem. And he says it's as simple as you've got your pocket money, you lift them up, and you think you've got less than you thought originally, and you get a little bit of you shake it and you get the original amount. It's like, okay, all the money's there, no problem. That counts as bala. It could be as small as that. So don't expect to have bala 24/7, that's really big. Sometimes that happens. But it also signifies how much he loves you as well. And that's, yes.
Like for me, when I lost my mobile, I get panicked, you know, especially at work, honestly, because I leave the room. When I come back, I can't find my mobile, my life in it. I'm not worried about cost or a lot of things in my mobile. So I get panic, my heart races, then I find it. Do you think that's a wish of my bala, act of bala?
Oh yeah, if the hadith says coins. Possibly. But it's a good sign, because he says, you know, so they do not emerge from one sorrow except they fall into another. So this kind of answers the belief of I'm a failure, or kind of the way we see things. You can argue content with content, or you can lose yourself and there's no script. There's no story that you have to tell yourself. No rule set that you play by, where you have to like do 100%, or I should never let people know how I feel. If you've got social anxiety, for instance, I should always have a mask on and never show people what I actually think, because they might reject me, I'll be abandoned, kind of thing. And that plays in different roles in different areas because there's a story. But again, the story's not your fault. It comes from a place, and it's meant to be this way. There's a journey that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to take. So that is when it comes to this ingredient, the solution of self. And we talked about how Sayyidah Zainab has it, but it also explains this part when she says, مَا رَأَيْتُ إِلَّا جَمِيلًا. Do you see the link between the two?
In English, ما رأيت إلا جميلا.
I saw nothing but beauty. Can anyone explain how this works now? Oh, it's one perspective, but like based on what we said. Do you want to go for it?
The dissociation.
You said dissociation?
That kind of. Sayyidah Zainab's always in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of passes by.
Mm-hmm.
Everything links to Allah. And because of that, it's all beautiful.
Yes. Everything is a manifestation of Him. And even though there's pain and all of those kind of emotions, which raises the question, how do you explain the emotions? What are emotions?
Love.
Okay, love, but yeah, you have a range of
She
emotions.
loves Allah. Her
Yes.
answer for Itila Jamila, it comes from pure love.
Mm.
Yeah.
I meant in general. If you are removed, if you are, there's no self anymore, if you are free of scripts, why do you still have emotions? Why does an insan kamil still have emotions?
Because this is
Yeah, so it's
how God creates him.
it's part of
It's from his name, Insan.
Mm-hmm.
It means insaniya, so he should have emotions.
Okay. So are emotions a bad thing?
No, at all.
They're a good
To
thing.
me, they are not.
How many people think emotions are a good thing?
Who are what? With
Are a good thing. Emotions in general are a good thing. How many people think their emotions are a bad thing? They have to fix them. They have to push them away. And I'm saying negative emotions as well as positive. Okay, we got like a few hands that dance in the air. So let's go for the emotions side. Let's figure out that puzzle. You can do the fana, but then you still have emotions. How does that work? Allahumma inni as'aluka imanan tubashiru bihi qalbi. And that's at the end of Dua Abu Hamza Thumali. I'm going to start at the top here. There's a hadith by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The heart is named so because of its constant turning, fluctuation. The example of a heart is like a feather in an open field stuck to the tree or to the root of a tree and turned over by wind back and forth. So if the heart moves all the time, what function does it serve? Why? Why do we have so many different emotions? Why not just peace?
sometimes
Go for it.
if you go through like trauma or anything, it makes you more strong. Everything peace, 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 peace.
Okay, so we're talking strength.
Yes.
But if I'm close to God already and I've done the fana, do I need more strength?
it's a reflection.
Reflection?
Yeah, to self.
I think this situation, the turning of heart, those people who dissolve themselves for Allah, they won't feel it anymore. Their heart is in one situation stable.
How? But Sayyidah Zainab was crying at certain places and then being strong in other places. There's a lot of range for emotion. Why?
It's emotions, and it's only for Allah. A mu'min in this rank, everything in him only for Allah. Emotions,
Okay.
feelings, the heart. The thinking.
So, is anyone else allowed to have emotions?
Of course, all human beings, they haven't.
Okay.
But it should be in the right path, I mean, to Allah. That's why they said love for Allah, hate for Allah, cry for Allah. You
Okay.
should know, yeah.
How do you guys feel about the emotion of jealousy? Shame,
It's bad, yeah.
anger.
Bad.
How do you deal with that emotion?
If anger for Allah, it's good.
Well, let's say it's a bad emotion, it comes from a bad place. What do you do?
Like I said, it's a reflection to self. So that's help us to know ourselves. That's like
Okay.
outcome of what's inside.
Mm-hmm.
Then if I feel like jealous, or
Mm-hmm.
then I know myself that I've got something wrong on my side. So I need to do something about it.
How do you go about it? How many of you beat yourselves up for having these emotions? Raise your hand. How many of you think I shouldn't be angry? I should be grateful? Is that the right way to go about it?
I think be positive. You have to do something about it other than just be sad or.
It's called the nafs al-lawama. It's like
The self that blames itself.
Yeah, and they say it's a good thing as a start. And nafs al-lawama, Allah Azza wa Jal swore by it in Quran because it's a good thing. But whoever has it, he should improve himself more. It's not only blaming, but it's a good thing.
It's a stepping stone.
Exactly.
Kind of like how we talked at the beginning, you know,
Yeah,
make the
yeah.
beliefs and the story and the script flexible until you're able to move away and there's no self. Same applies for emotions. There are stages, but beating yourself up about how you feel, what happens? Are you going to feel emotions more or less?
Depends on how much. He shouldn't be so harsh on himself when blaming.
Mhm.
It should be something to improve himself, not
Okay.
so harsh. So
there's a
he will
balance.
get- Exactly, yeah.
So we'll move to a few hadith that talk about gentleness and pacing with the heart. And indeed, the hearts have times of inclination and times of retreat. Iqbal, idbar al-qulub, we have that idea, you know, they come and go. And the Imams talk about, you know, when they come, do nawafil, do extras, do all these different things. When they go, leave them be, do the important parts. Why? Why do we have that ebb and flow? What does it do for our spirituality? Why do our hearts go away and we have to not do as much ibadat and stuff like that? Just do the fard.
Because if it's all the time there, we will lose the taste of them.
Taste.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because if you leave something, you used to do it, and you come back to it, it will have different taste.
Flavor.
Because if you continue to do it, sometimes it will be like a routine. You won't feel.
Okay. Routine.
Yes.
What is it breaking?
Pray, I want to do nawafil, I want to do salat,
Yes.
but no sense. It's just like a machine doing it.
There's a point that you said, it breaks the routine. And we talked earlier about scripts. If someone believes they're a failure and they have to do things 100% of the time, what does Iqbal and Idbar al-Qulub do for them?
I have to do better. I have to do this.
So it will be harsh. Because when he have it bar, he will push himself to do things without any,
Yes.
any
Okay.
sense.
And he'll feel guiltier and he'll make mistakes and he's like, oh my God, why am I, it's me, it's my fault and all that. But what is it actually trying to do? It's trying to do the opposite. Idbar and Iqbal al-Qulub is trying to remove your agency in a way. Obviously you still have freedom of choice when it comes to prayer and such, but as in removing the expectation of things to be consistent in the way that you think they should be. And it breaks the rule set that you have of I need to do 100%, I need to do this, I need to do that. There is an ebb and flow. Water, again. Even in the output, even in the actions, even in the states. You're always moving, always shifting. And there's compassion and gentleness as pathways to faith. إن لكل شيء قفلا وقفل الإيمان الرفق. Everything has a lock, and the key for faith is, or the lock for faith is compassion. How do you make sense of that? Why is compassion the key?
Water again.
Water again? Okay, yeah, water. Gentleness of water, it flows. This religion is very deep. Go into it gently. And don't force people to pray, do not make worship burdensome for the servants of Allah, lest you be like the rider who is lost, neither completing a journey nor leaving the camel standing. You're just aimlessly moving around because you're trying to really push it and force it.
See, when you push it, sometimes you feel you lose the core of the ibadah, for example. Then you think like you just have to do it, don't be harsh with yourself. Then you miss the main reason, which is like linked to that main core with your ibadah.
You miss the dhawq of it.
Yeah.
Kind of, it's a push. I need to do things. Yes.
Yeah, I think consistency is more important than perfection. I can see an example of that, like say for example, being healthy physically, and like say your relationship with food. So say for example, if you have an overly restrictive diet or you overly consume something, then it has an adverse effects. Like there's studies, for example, if you restrict yourself for a certain food, then after a while, then you'll binge and eat more than you've ever had in your life. Like for example. So sometimes, you know, if you go in too hard too quick, then the adverse effect is then you go the other way, 180. So that's not our nature. We have to be more like when in building new habits, you start small, start slow, and then make it a habit. So you know, just doing it by human design. We're created a certain way. We're not superhuman. We're human, so we have vulnerabilities, and yes, essentially, because consistency is more important.
And even in that consistency, there's ebb and flow. Like you have times when it's like, this needs to stop, and there's no rest, and then you pick it up again. Based on like the narrations kind of thing. So yeah, there's a link there, thank you. So that's one branch that I was looking at, but also Muharram itself. How do we feel about emotions during Muharram? Are they more acceptable than any time outside of it?
Yeah.
It's a season.
It's easier.
Sorry, season.
It's the season. Are you more comfortable with your emotions?
I think you're more conscious of them.
You're more conscious of them. Are you more comfortable showing them around other people? It's almost like it's celebrated may not be the right word, but as in it's encouraged. It's something that we try and bring out of each other there. Remembrance. Why not outside?
Sorry, what's the question again?
Why not outside of Muharram?
Because there's something to relate to, like an example, so, which is common.
No, specifically like emotions, why do we not accept or have the same ease when it comes to
I'm saying like the
emotions?
story of Karbala, it's like everyone here will relate to.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just have your own personal thing outside of Muharram, it'll be okay, just his personal thing.
True.
It's not for everyone.
No, go for it.
There's a connection of your emotion to your faith.
So there's a depth to it, there's a connection, it's a communal thing.
But everywhere else it's kind of more personal to you, which can or cannot be good or bad.
Okay.
I think there's also less shame when there's communal grieving.
Yes.
It takes the kind of embarrassment out of feelings that, let's say for example, men would never think to feel outside of a place where there's not everyone feeling the same thing.
True.
So I think it's about the ego as well a lot, like we don't want to be embarrassed, but everyone's doing it, so it's okay if we do it. Well, obviously there's a religious connection as well, but I think on a base level that really comes into play a lot as well.
So that goes back to the script that we were talking about. I don't want to be embarrassed, I don't want to come across this way, they're going to judge me, especially for men, I'm going to be weak if I look like I'm crying. All these different scripts are coming back. But in Muharram, it's fine. Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, salawat,
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
When he lost his son Ibrahim, two narrations mention it. One of them says he was tearing up and crying, and he's saying, the eye waters, the heart saddens, but we don't say anything that upsets or angers God. And we are, about you, Ibrahim, saddened. That's one version of it. How do you explain that? You have an insan kamil and he's having emotions. What function do these emotions play? He's a human being.
Showing emotions is not something negative necessarily.
Okay.
So, him as a ma'asum, saying that showing emotions is not something, because in some instances where some religions or like some ideologies, showing emotions like crying or negative emotions is frowned upon. But it's kind of teaching us that it's okay to grieve and cry. And
Do we have that in our communities? Do you people feel comfortable crying outside of Muharram? Yeah, it's easier for you. But for men, that's the question as well. So that's an area.
Self-expressions.
Yeah, I have a shame for men to cry and all these different things. But again, water, and if there's no self, and he's an insan kamil and masoom, then his emotions are in and of themselves beautiful. There is worship in, I think, crying, feeling things. There's another hadith that talks about al-baka, when there are 5 people who have cried a lot. You know, Yaqub, Nabi Yaqub alayhi salam, Yusuf, Adam, Fatima, Sayyida Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, and Ali ibn Hussain, Zina. So, from a psychotherapeutic point of view, emotions matter. Our work is mainly around emotions, even though we work with thoughts sometimes, different areas, but emotions are really important. And judging them makes things worse. Even if they come from a difficult place like jealousy. Why do you think that is? Okay, in certain contexts it's good, but my question is, why do we focus on emotions in therapy?
It's a tool.
Tool. The reason why we focus on emotions is because they usually hold the most intense thought or story or script. They guide us back to where that script is and what we can work with. But if you beat yourself
they
up...
hold or they show the most?
Sorry?
Because they hold the most or because they show the most?
They hold the most. Most of us don't sit with our emotions. If you feel jealousy, let's say, obviously you're going to hate that emotion because it's a bad emotion. It's a shameful emotion. I shouldn't feel jealous of someone, right? So what do? What's the most obvious thing that comes to mind? You have an emotion, you don't like it. What do? Try to change it, okay. You're pushing it. What else?
I think you try and think the positive way and just keep saying zikr and help your heart and then just get through it.
Okay.
Redirect yourself.
So you're mentioning something positive and you're trying to think of something positive
So if
and
you're
then
jealous, you think about the good things you have and then you don't say, I'm going to block it, but you say, I can get through it, and then you look at the positives and just keep saying zikr.
Okay. So there's movement there.
Yeah.
How about sitting with it?
Sometimes you can over-sit and over-fixate, and then maybe say if you have jealousy against one person, then you think of ways to bring them down.
Is that sitting with the emotion, or is that trying to do something about the emotion?
It's being in that same state, you're not moving away from, like say a seed can turn into...
Yeah. Think of it like anger, for instance. When you're angry, and you've got someone you're angry with, Most people think that the anger gets them to go punch someone or do something. It's actually, I don't like this feeling, I want to avoid it, so I'm going to go do something. So I'm going to go punch the guy so I get rid of the feeling. I'm not sitting with it exactly. I am not accepting.
Get it out of someone.
Yes. The jealousy, I don't like it. It's uncomfortable. I'm not accepting it in that moment. I need to move. I need to do something. Be that positive, I'm doing dhikr, I'm moving somewhere else. Be that negative, I'm thinking about bringing their life down. I'm moving somewhere. But am I actually sitting down with the emotion and talking to it? No. So do we ever sit with our emotions? Sometimes, if they're good emotions.
Even if they are bad.
I feel like when you sit in with an emotion, it goes by faster.
Beautiful. If you sit with an emotion, it goes by faster. And in most cases, that's true as well in therapy. Sometimes just giving it space to breathe, things change. The thing we're so scared of is just accepting how we feel. And this is why I mentioned taslim when it comes to the emotions. By accepting how you feel in that moment is a form of worship as well. Because you're accepting how you feel right now instead of avoiding it. This is a core aspect, according to some theories of mental health, where every single mental health condition or experience we have is basically the story of, I don't like this emotion, and I'm going to do something about it instead of accepting it. And you want to accept it, you want to sit with it, you want to let go.
So I don't have a problem with accepting it because it's you know yourself again.
Yeah.
But don't mention anything about asking yourself why that happened or how to stop it happening in the future.
What risk do you fall into?
Well, because there's, knowing myself, it's a reason that to chant something about it. So knowing myself that I've got something bad in my, led me to jealous someone. That means something inside me that I need to fix to stop that happening again.
Yes, but you're treating it like a problem. So now you feel something, it's uncomfortable, you're treating it like a problem.
Positively.
Yes, but you're rushing to fix it.
Yeah.
Are you sitting with it first?
Of course, I accept it. I have to, because I need to focus on something else, which is fix it.
But that shift again.
It is, yeah.
Is accepting it, isn't it a sin? Like sometimes Allah consider things are sin even if we don't show it. Sometimes I think feeling jealous from someone or envy, you mean sitting with it, that's simple?
Jealous is different to hasad. That's
I know. Yeah.
Sitting with it means I accept that this is how I feel. And I'm going to accept that it's here right now, and I'm going to try and talk to it.
Oh, that's good. I got it now. Okay.
What do you think happens when you talk to it?
Like she said, it will go faster.
Like
she said, which is go faster from you.
Yeah. In most cases. In some cases, you'll get more info.
Is that because you don't give it much attention?
It's because you're giving it attention.
No, if you do something about it in terms of you want to get out to do something, or you also can be against it, that's more attention in my opinion.
Yes. Emotions are like cats, in a way. They want attention, and if you don't give it to them, they'll keep coming at you in different ways. So you sit down and give it attention, and then they'll ignore you and walk away, in some cases. So there is an emphasis in terms of the heart and emotions in a lot of different traditions, therapeutically as well as spiritual traditions. And to make lasting change, to be able to do the fana, you need something that engages your emotions, which is why Muharram is amazing when it comes to engaging your heart. You feel it, you lose yourself in the moment with the grief, and change happens. But you want to carry that with you. And there's this idea of implicational meaning, and it comes from Teasdale, and they talk about mindfulness and so on and so forth. But the idea is that for lasting change to happen, you need things that connect to your heart. That links to our dua. Allahumma inni as'aluka imanan tubashiru bihi qalbi. If you don't sit with your emotions, negative or positive, no matter where you are on that journey, even if you're jealous or feeling anything negative and sinful, let's not say sinful, negative and shameful, what are you doing? You're blocking the heart. And if you block that, how are you going to listen?